Hello and welcome to the Dyno Six Pack Dynasty Football Podcast. I'm your host, JJ Schultz. And if you're watching me now, you are seeing that I am out here on the back patio again recording this show. And I think that at least in the early season, as long as this weather holds out, this is pretty much what I'm going to be doing every Monday. So you guys may have to bear with me, maybe a little bit slow pulling up stuff. Most of the year, I'll be inside with my couple monitor setups so I can have everything all there. But I'm out here in Oregon, so I'm about probably 4 weeks away from 3-4 straight months of just rain. So I'm going to take advantage of this nice weather out here. So if you see me fumbling with my phone a little bit here, I'm just pulling up my notes that I got down here. But yeah, I mean, let's hop right into it. What I'm going to be doing today is breaking down a couple of the early trends that we've noticed through 2 weeks of the season that if they do continue on, they could turn into something that could have some major implications for your dynasty leagues here. But first things first, before we get going into that, head on over to fantasy6pack.net/plans. Make sure you become a member over there. Get access to our Discord, where you can get personalized fantasy advice for all of your leagues from all of our different analysts, as well as you get access to like our rankings, our DFS and betting tools, which are just like on the money this year. It's crazy how good our guys are doing on the betting and DFS side there. So yeah, fantasy6pack.net/plans. And then make sure you hit like and subscribe here so you can see me every Monday right here, as well as all the other awesome content that we have coming on every single week. Before we get going into the planned show, I just, in the midst of reading my notifications, I just saw that Isaiah Pacheco being placed most likely on the IR with a fractured fibula. So, man, that is a bummer. Isaiah Pacheco, that's the Chiefs offense was already, I don't want to say off to a slow start because they played some tough teams right out of the gate. But Pacheco, man, he has been the engine for what they've done so far. Looking what he's done on here so far. Racked up 135 yards and a touchdown on 34 carries. I mean, it's a little under 4 yards per carry, but I mean, he's arguably been the most effective player in the offense, outside of Rashee Rice. He's caught 7 of his 8 targets for 54 yards. And it's more so like looking at what's on the depth chart behind him now. You have Samaje Perine, Carson Steele. I believe Clyde Edwards-Helaire is on IR, so I don't think he can come back for 2 more games. So, I mean, we're probably going to be looking at a pretty healthy dose of Samaje Perine, which was a guy I was pretty down on. I was just like, there's got to be so many things that have to break right for him to even have a chance to get on the field. And, I mean, this was step one of what needed to happen for him to get on the field. So I do think that the Chiefs are a candidate to maybe go make a move and bring in a running back, Khalil Herbert or Roschon Johnston, one of the Bears running backs. They kind of come to mind there. I'm sure there's some other situations around the league. So I wouldn't be shocked if you see the Chiefs make a move to bring in somebody. But then again, I also wouldn't be surprised if the Chiefs have some magic cooked up in-house where they have some practice squad kid they've been sitting on. They're going to elevate and turn into the next Isaiah Pacheco. But in the short term, it does give me a little bit more pause on the Chiefs offense. The one, I guess, plus was it's probably going to put a lot more back on Patrick Mahomes' shoulders. So he's got to get out there and start throwing like he used to. Maybe we can get, probably not a 50 touchdown season like we had forever ago, but maybe we can get back up closer to that 40 number a little more consistently here. But yeah, man, this is a huge loss there. Dynasty value for Pacheco. I mean, he's going to be 26 next year, coming off a broken leg. We kind of have a similar instance of this with Tony Pollard. So we have seen a running back. And I guess if you're looking for some positives, like Pacheco wasn't quite as dependent on his speed and his quickness as Pollard was. He's more of a grinder, put his nose down, run you over. So maybe he doesn't have that first year kind of slow comeback like we saw from Tony Pollard last year. Maybe he's able to get right back in when he comes back healthy. But I mean, again, you're 26, you're looking at a 26-year-old running back coming off a broken leg. Like, I think his dynasty value now, you're looking at him more like a low-end RB2. You're going to be lucky if you get another top 12 season out of him, even if he does come back in this offense. So I don't know that I'm necessarily looking to go out and buy him right now, just because it's always risky betting on running backs when they're not injured. I went out in a league this last week, traded for Joe Mixon, and then, had that scare where he got rolled up on the game, rolled his ankle. And it's just like, man, this is why, like, I just, in my soul, I don't ever trade for running backs. When I do, like, just that seems to be what happens. So yeah, that's a bummer for Pacheco. I'm not looking to really sell. I think if you have him, you throw him on IR and then you hope he comes back strong, maybe for the second half of the season. But I mean, if he goes on season-ending IR, you gotta make other moves here. But all right, now let's get into the bulk of the show. And so this is what I kind of had planned for originally until that devastating news came out right before the show on Pacheco. But let's get pulled up here. So the first thing I want to talk about is I got 5 receivers that are off to a little bit of a slow start. going to kind of go through and just give you my worry level on each of these guys. You know, there's varying level of stars and worry level here. But first one we're going to talk about here is Ja'Marr Chase. Man, so I don't know if we've seen a team mess up contract negotiations outside of the Cowboys, but I guess at least they get the deals done than the Bengals have. You know, T. Higgins has obviously not been happy with his contract situation. Ja'Marr Chase has made it very, very clear he is not happy with his contract situation. It's always, you know, tough to try and play like psychology GM from the couch, but just looking at the body language out there, and I feel like even though I'm not a doctor, I'm a little bit qualified to speak on this because Des Bryant was my favorite player growing up, so I'm pretty good at reading body language and like when somebody's like legitimately mad and when somebody's just pumped up and just yelling. Yesterday, man, the body language from Ja'Marr Chase was not awesome. He looked not happy to be there when things were going well, and then when things were not going well, I mean, apparently, you know, the ref wouldn't even repeat, I guess, what he said. He just said that it was highly abusive language, and that's why he got that penalty. That, I mean, luckily that Evan McPherson came through and made that kick. Otherwise, all we'd be talking about this week is the Ja'Marr Chase penalty that knocked them out of field goal range. You know, didn't matter because you left any time on the clock for Patrick Mahomes, so he came right back down and kicked a field goal to win it. But Ja'Marr Chase here. So getting back to my original point here, worry level on him. If we're gonna say like 1, not worried at all, 10, I'm looking to move out and trade him for anything I can get right now. We're gonna put his worry level at about a 3. The elite talent's there. Like he didn't forget how to play football. He's only 24 years old. Like he's gonna get going. But man, like I just said, the body language looks off there. I have a buddy whose big theory, and you know, it's always fun to kind of dive into this stuff. His theory was that he figured that you know, Burrow would take a little bit of a discount so that way Chase and Higgins and everybody could get locked up. And once Burrow signs that huge contract, we're seeing it a little bit more tough to get deals done with both of these big guys, and just makes you wonder if kind of that early honeymoon these guys all had there is kind of starting to face reality where they not probably able to pay all these guys and keep everybody happy here. So Ja'Marr Chase, like for Dynasty, like if someone's panicking on him, I'm looking to go out and buy if I can get a discount on him. But I am to the point now where if I'm in a Dynasty league, am I looking at a couple guys behind him like Amon-Ra St. Brown, Amon-Ra, AJ Brown, Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors even? Like, do I kind of want to maybe make the move and bet on one of these guys? I'm starting to consider it. Like, I think at this point, I'm pretty firmly going to move CD and JJ into the very top tier by themselves. And then I think Chase at this point, you kind of have to put him in that group, that second tier with these next level stars, where if you like Amon-Ra, I can't really blame you if you want to go out and make that swap here. I mean, when Ja'Marr Chase is on the field, like usually it's pretty explosive, but it does seem like there's going to be times where he misses games, and then you add contract disputes, and you know, he seems like he's pretty demonstrative out there. Like, I don't know. I think it could be a bumpy year this year while things get sorted out on the contract front. Again, it's football, so they could get something worked out, but Ja'Marr Chase has said that he's not willing to negotiate at this point for the rest of the year, so we'll see if that's actually true and what happens this offseason. But yeah, Ja'Marr Chase, I'm going to put my worry level on him at about a 3. Like, I still like him for a long-term dynasty buy, but I do think it could be a bit ugly this year, depending how things go this next few weeks here. Next guy here, Brandon Ayuk. Man, so I always want to be the first guy to defend these players when they hold out, you know, like go get your money. You know, you as we saw, like with the Tua hit, like one hit, things can change in an instant. Like go get your money, get that bag while you can. That being said, though, like, you know, of course, we're going to start hearing that, oh, well, this is what happens when you sit out of training camp, like you come back slow. And then you add to the fact that most of the teams don't even play their starters in preseason. So you can kind of look at these first 2 games as preseason. So it's even going to be a little bit more rusty for a guy like Brandon Ayuk coming in. And I mean, I think he has 4 catches in both of his games so far. I mean, he has pretty clearly been the 4th option, I would say, in the offense. I mean, behind George Kittle, Debo, and then Jordan Mason coming out of nowhere. So here we go. We got Brandon Ayuk. He's gotten 5 targets each game. So it's not like he's not out there doing anything, but I mean, he's just not doing a lot with it. This week at 4 catches for 43 yards. You know, obviously you don't want to overreact. Like if he catches that touchdown pass in week 1, we're probably not even talking about him this week. But the fact that like some of the other players on the team are playing so well, and then Jordan Mason has just filled right in for Christian McCaffrey. Worry level on Brandon Ayuk here. A little bit older than Ja'Marr Chase. He's 26 versus 24. We're gonna put him at about a 4. So a little bit higher than Ja'Marr Chase, where I'm not full on panicking, but it is kind of like it could be a rough year here. Is he gonna have a little bit of a slow start just getting back into the speed of things? And then, I mean, Debo showed up. It sounds like he showed up to camp ready to go, and he has been balling just right from the start. George Kittle is one of the best tight ends, especially now when you look at all the guys that are injured around him. Like, he's pretty clearly a top 3 or 4 tight end in the game right now. And then, yeah, we mentioned Jordan Mason. He's Christian McCaffrey light. It looks like he's stepping right in there. So yeah, I do think that I might have overshot. I think it's one of those, like last year when I was in on Ayuk, I got him at a good discount at a lot of leagues. And then this year I may have overcorrected and had him a little bit too high, where this ball may get spread around a little bit more than I wanted to. I really do think Ayuk is the best wide receiver on that team. But that doesn't always necessarily mean that he's the guy that's going to get fed the ball or get the good looks in the offense. So we're going to put him at about a 4. I'm still looking to go out and buy him if there's a little bit of a panic, but on the opposite end, not really looking to sell as much as I would be on like some of these guys we got coming up here next. Next guy here, very similar to Brandon Ayuk, and where I got him at a discount at a lot of places last year, and then this year it's been a little bit of a slow start, although better than it has been for Ayuk, and that's DJ Moore. So looking at what he did last night, 6 catches on 10 targets for 53 yards. For him, honestly, we're going to put the panic level 2. There was, I think, 3 plays that come to mind right off the top of my head last night where he was open, and like he did a good job on one of the plays, like sealing the defender off to the inside to where they were throwing a back shoulder fade. There was like 10 yards of open sideline for Caleb just to loft that ball in there for DJ Moore to work back into, and he just sailed him. Another play where DJ Moore had a step on the defender down the sideline, and again, just oversailed him about 10 yards. Like, they're going to start connecting. We're seeing some of the growing pains with Caleb Williams, and one of the things that, I'm guilty of this, Caleb Williams walking into the best situation a first-round pick has been ever walking into. I obviously did not anticipate the offensive line being this bad. You saw like last night, D'Amico Ryans, like his game plan was just like, we're going to blitz everyone, every play from every single different direction and just mix it up every single time. And the Bears offense had like no idea how to pick up and maneuver on that. Like I think the final numbers that I read were Caleb was pressured on like 26 of his 42 dropbacks or something like that. So over half. And in total, it was like 39 total pressures for the defense because more than one defender can get a pressure on the same play. So it seemed like just kind of watching it. And I kind of got to go back and rewatch again when I'm not just doing like the live TV watch, because that can kind of sway things when you have, the emotion of the crowd and everything. But it seems like most plays that Caleb Williams, like as soon as he got the ball, was having to look and see which defender the offensive line missed on the block so he could try and escape him and then hopefully look downfield. Like he wasn't even really having a chance to just sit in the pocket that often and just see things develop and then make plays. And like when he did, he had pretty good numbers. I want to say he finished like 11 for 14 or 11 for 15 on plays where he had a clean pocket. So if they're able to keep him upright and just standing there in the pocket, like I think he's going to be good. And I think that's going to come. I think that it could be a little bit of a slow start. Maybe we're looking at maybe a week 6, 7, 8 pickup where they kind of start to gel a little bit more. But as far as it goes for DJ Moore, I'm not panicked at all here. He's locked in for the next 3 years. I still have Caleb as my QB6 for Dynasty League, so I'm not ready to panic and jump off board here. So yeah, DJ Moore, no panic at all here for me. Next one up, and this is the first guy that I am going to have to put a little bit of a real panic on here. And that is my boy, Michael Pittman Jr. This one sucks, man. I have a lot of him. I think just on pure talent, he's pretty clearly a top 15, at worst, a top 20 receiver in the league. But I think we might have to start having some tough conversations here, and this will kind of roll into another topic we'll discuss later. But my co-host on the Sunday Social, Dylan, man, one of my favorite football minds. Love chatting with him every Sunday. But he did a series this offseason where he went and chatted with beat reporters from all 32 NFL teams. And I know one of the things that one of the takeaways he came away with was he wasn't quite sure that Pittman's skill set was going to match up really well with what Anthony Richardson does well. And I mean, no hate, Dylan. When I first kind of heard that, I was just like, I don't know, man. I feel like most of the time the talent wins out. But then you kind of really step back and read the tea leaves, and thinking back before he got injured, the guy that was getting hyped coming out of camp, it wasn't Michael Pittman. It was Josh Downs. They were saying he was the guy that's had such a great rapport with Anthony Richardson early. He's been the star of camp. And then unfortunately, ankle injury. So we have not got to see him actually start this year. Whoa. Breaking news. The Panthers are benching Bryce Young and replacing him with Andy Dalton moving forward. Whew. Man, okay. Well, we're gonna have to come back to that one. I need a few minutes to fully process that one. Man, wow, crazy. My buddy with the theory on the Jamar Chase contract thing, his theory on Bryce Young was that they were gonna bring in Andy Dalton sooner than later, just because he thought that he looked like he was just completely shook. And man, whew, that's crazy. I don't know if that's up or down for the Panthers offense. We'll touch on that one at the end of the show. I need a little bit of time to fully marinate on that one. Back to Michael Pittman. I guess cliff notes on this guy. Yeah, just what he does well does not seem to be matching up with Anthony Richardson's strength, and Anthony Richardson is having his own struggles on his own. So panic level on Michael Pittman, we're going to put him at a 7. I am not ready to go out and sell low on him, but if I can sell and still get full value or 90% of full value, I think I would consider it at this point. I know that can be pretty vague, but can I go out and I don't know, throw out a younger receiver that's been pretty decent? Like, I don't know, can I go get like Lad McConkey and some picks? That might be something that at this point I'm starting to consider, unless I'm like a true contender where Michael Pittman's sitting on my roster as like my wide receiver 4, or like my second flex, where I'm just kind of getting the extra upside deep in my lineup, but he's not someone I'm counting on every single week. At this point, I think that I'm okay kind of starting to shop around and see what's out there for him. And hopefully I'm wrong on this. Hopefully they get back on track and that, we see the old Michael Pittman, but I think what's more likely at this point is that Josh Downs comes back in the next few weeks, and then this might just be what Michael Pittman is. I mean, he's getting targets, 15 of them through 2 weeks, but has only brought in 7 of them for 52 total yards. I know, right around 3.5 yards per target is what he's done in the early going. So like I said, not looking to sell low on him, but if I can get close to market value, I think I'm okay looking to make that swap at this point. And then the last guy that I want to talk about here in this little segment of struggling receivers is Terry McLaurin, man. I feel like there's very few players that when you watch his film, like the good things that he clearly does has translated less to fantasy points than Scary Terry here. Pure talent alone, man. I think he's a top 15 receiver in the league, but for whatever reason, it just does not seem like it's ever really clicked into consistent production outside of a few years early in his career. He had a top 14 finish, I think, in 2022. I mean, outside of that, for PPR leagues, he's been in the wide receiver 20s every single year. And I think that we might have to start having some conversations that this is just who Terry McLaurin is at this point, where he's a guy that is a flex play with some wide receiver 2 upside. He's 29 years old, so it's not like he has the benefit of some of the guys we talked about earlier. Like even Michael Pittman, I believe, is only 26. So not only has he only had the one season of coming even close to top 12 production, he's now entering his 30s. We have Jaden Daniels there, who, I mean, has honestly been right around the league average, if not a little bit above, as a passer through 2 weeks. And it just hasn't translated into production. I mean, we've seen Zach Ertz turn back the clock, and he's the one getting looks here. This last week, even catching 6 of it, 8 targets, it was 22 yards for Terry McLaurin after a 17-yard performance in week 1. Yeah, this is one where my panic level on him is about a 9. Like, I'm not looking to go out and just give him away, but I'm looking to really, if I can re-roll and get some future picks for this guy, any future first at this point, I think I'm slamming an accept on. If I can even get like a pick that looks like it's going to be like a high second next year, and then give me like another, the Lad McConkey types, give me someone young that I like there, I'm really 100% making this move. And it's a bummer. I was pretty in on him this offseason, and I do think that Jaden Daniels is going to be good, but the way that this offense is running, again, another topic we'll talk about a little bit later here, I think that it's going to be a lot of work out of the backfield and then Jaden Daniels. So yeah, a little bit panicked on Terry McLaurin. It's 3.5 years now of us just been like, oh, he's better than the numbers have shown, but at a certain point, it might just kind of be who he is, as much as that does suck to say. So that's going to wrap it up the receivers there. Let's kick it on over to Anthony Richardson's accuracy. Definitely something that I am monitoring here after 2 weeks. So let's look at his numbers on the season here, what he has done so far. Ooh, not awesome. 26 for 53 for 416 yards. 3 touchdowns to 4 interceptions. What has kind of saved his fantasy value so far is his 93 yards and his rushing touchdown. Man, again, they got to get Michael Pittman going if it's going to be good. Josh Downs is coming back, so I'm hoping that brings things up a little bit for him. But I mean, we saw exactly what happens last week if he does not improve as a passer and is not more consistently accurate. When those big chunk plays, when he's not hooking up for 60-yard touchdowns to Alec Pierce, when those aren't hitting every week, which they're not going to, this offense could struggle to move the ball at times. And for me, what I think the most plausible answer to fix that is Jonathan Taylor. Second week in a row, he's looked really good. He had 103 yards on just 12 carries. Again, 103 yards, 12 carries. Like, let's feed that man the ball. Let's get him back up to that 18, 20 touch a game mark. Let's get him used in the passing game a little bit. Like, we've seen he can catch the ball. Let's get him used there. I think that once they start running this offense through the guy that they should be, Jonathan Taylor, that's just going to create easier looks for Anthony Richardson. They're putting too much on his shoulders right away. Like, yes, he has Superman level freaking traits. Like, he is a stud. He's going to have the weeks where he finishes QB1 because he breaks off long runs and long touchdowns. But I think the answer to get more consistent play out of him is let's get Jonathan Taylor going a little bit. So yeah, I'm definitely watching this. If we get to week 5 and 6 and we still see Anthony Richardson just having times where he's just sailing guys, or he's, throwing a 15-yard pass like it's 50 yards down the field, just throwing fastballs, you might need to kind of step back and look at Anthony Richardson more as, like, at this point, he's a QB2 that's going to have those weeks where he does have QB1 finishes, but for dynasty purposes, maybe he's more kind of in that Trevor Lawrence category, but with a lot more upside as a runner. So yeah, definitely something I'm going to be monitoring here. Like, it's something that we said was an issue. I, for the most part, believe that quarterbacks can improve their accuracy. Like, we've seen it happen with several guys, but through at least 2 games, and again, he's coming off of shoulder surgery. I'm not looking to panic, but this is something I'm definitely monitoring here. I want to see some marketable improvement these next few weeks out of the accuracy from Anthony Richardson, because it's going to be tough for the Colts to just get by throwing 60-yard bombs. It's going to be awesome those weeks you do. As fantasy owners, you're going to look at your scores and be like, hell yeah, this is a lot of fun. But you also have the chance to have the weeks like last week where it's 14 points, and had it not been an extra 37 yards on the ground, you're looking at like a 10-point week. That's going to be tough to swallow some weeks. Next storyline that I'm monitoring here is the split out of the Washington backfield. Kind of like we had mentioned, or like I had mentioned before with Jaden Daniels, he's putting up some big numbers, but it isn't really translating to the wide receivers and the pass catchers. The people that are really the biggest benefit are Austin Eckler and Brian Robinson Jr. here. So I'm definitely going to be monitoring this split moving forward here. And I think that Brian Robinson, he might be kind of a sneaky bet to finish as like a top 12 running back. Like, I don't think it's going to be top 5, but he's sitting at RB 14 right now. Had 133 yards last week. After a week 1 performance, we had 40 yards and a touchdown. He's gotten 7 targets in the passing game. So even with the addition of Eckler there, he's getting involved as a pass catcher, which you got to love to see. I don't know. It's just every single time I've watched him since he's come back from getting shot as a rookie, it just seems like he's getting a little bit more explosive every single time he touches the ball, and every single game he comes out. Traditionally, when you add a rushing quarterback like Jaden Daniels, that's going to benefit the guy that runs through the tackles more than the pass catching running back. So I kind of like Brian Robinson as a dynasty buy here. He's 25 years old, under contract for 2 more years. So I think that he's a sneaky dynasty buy. If I could go out right now and move like a second rounder and a younger guy that I'm not as high on and go get Brian Robinson, I think that's a good move for dynasty teams. If you're looking for that extra flex player, a running back too. I know a lot of teams go 0 running backs at this point. Like, all right, I just need to find that RB2. I think Brian Robinson's a guy I might be okay going out and sending like a small overpay for, because I think that his value could extend on past just this season here. He's shown enough that even if they bring in another running back in a class next year that looks super deep at running back for the rookies, I think Robinson's going to have fantasy value in this offense for the next couple of years. So yeah, I'm monitoring this backfield split. If it keeps going this way, where Brian Robinson's clearly the RB1 and he's getting close to 20 touches a week, yeah, I think there's some sneaky RB1 upside here for Brian Robinson. Next one here. This one is kind of an interesting one. This is not one I had on my video card coming in. I was a little bit low on Quentin Johnston coming in, but we might have to take notes. He might be decent, actually. Like, looking what he's done so far through 2 weeks, he's played right around a 70% snap share both weeks, which makes sense. There's not a lot of talent on this depth chart outside of him and Lad McConkey. I'm not a really believer in the vets they've added there. So yeah, 70% snap share. He's seen at least 5 targets in each game. This last week, he caught 5 of his 6 passes, 51 yards, and caught both of Justin Herbert's touchdown passes. So even in a game where Herbert, I think, was held like 120 or 140 passing yards, still found the end zone twice, and it was Quentin Johnston that got those looks, not Ladd McConkey like we saw in week 1. Maybe myself included on this, maybe we were all just a little bit too hard on him coming in. It was easy to crap all over him when the things that we called out as weaknesses as a prospect showed up right away on tape when he stepped on the field as a rookie. We're talking about the drops, the lack of separation. But, maybe we kind of all overstated how good of a situation we thought it was playing under Brandon Staley. Obviously, that magic wore off last year as he got fired. But coming into last year, everyone was a little bit up on that. They thought that, okay, Brandon Staley might be one of the better, younger offensive minds that's kind of coming up. And maybe the change to Jim Harbaugh is what he needed. Like, you hear Quentin Johnston talk in the interviews, like he sounds like a guy that's rejuvenated and he's very happy to be there in this offense. So I think I'm looking to buy Quentin Johnston. I think if I can send a future second and go get him, I think he's a good speculative edge to throw on the bench. Like, if it's a situation where I need him to start every week, then you're not ready to go make a move like this. Like, this is like more of a contending buy that I think could pay off. Sure, as a rebuilder, 23 years old, maybe he's a decent target there. But I think at that point, I'd rather just keep the pick and re-roll that into next year's draft. But I do think that Quentin Johnston might have a little bit of sneaky value this year. Looking at where he's sitting right now, he's wide receiver 22 on the year. I would say over under wide receiver 36. I think that's about right from this year. So I think he is going to have like some back end flex value. And then especially in leagues where you're playing multiple flex spots. I think I was a little bit too hard on him. I'm kind of coming around on him a little bit here. So yeah, Quentin Johnston, I think that he is a decent dynasty buy. I'm looking to go out and make that move this week. Next one here, guy on the cover photo. Nico Collins is elite. I think at this point he is. Big Tank Dell guy coming in. I still think that he's going to have a big role every single week moving forward, but the physical tools for Nico Collins, man, like 6'4", 220, and he moves like he's like Tank Dell out there. Like, he's quick. We saw the excellent hands last night, multiple like superstar highlight level plays. And so at this point, like I was kind of sitting down looking at my dynasty ranks and who all do I definitively know I for sure want ahead of Nico Collins in a dynasty league. What I came up with was we got CD, Jefferson, Chase, Monra, AJ Brown, Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors. And then I think at that point, Nico Collins is in that mix right there. So that wide receiver 8, very real chance that I think that he's going to slot in there in this next dynasty update. So like if I have Tyreek Hill and I can flip him into Nico Collins, and it may be too late, but that's a move that I'm looking to move at this point. I'm trying to think of some other guys. Brandon Ayuk, Chris Olave, Drake London for sure, Devonta Smith. I'm trying to think any of the other receivers are going around him. Pretty much all of them at this point, if I can even add on a little bit to them to go get Nico Collins, I'm doing it. I think that this is truly an elite level receiver that tied up to CJ Stroud for the next few years. I don't think that I would be shocked, I would say, if he does not finish as a top 12 to 15 receiver pretty much every single year moving forward, as long as him and CJ Stroud are healthy. Look at what he's done through 2 weeks. In week 1, had 6 catches for 117. Last night, 8 catches for 135 and a touchdown against a better Bears defense than I thought they would be. And it's just, even with the addition of Stephon Diggs there, it's clear that Nico Collins is the best talent there, and CJ Stroud is leaning on him heavily. 18 targets through 2 weeks. So yeah, I'm looking to go overpay a little bit today to go get Nico Collins on my teams. And I think that you look back in 2 years and you're going to be really happy you made that move. And then the last one I got here, and that is, catching Kelce and just kind of how we should look at elite tight ends in dynasty leagues at this point. It seems like every single year, and then this year included, it's the deepest tight end class that we have ever had. And then let's look at what we've had so far. My boy Fergie, David and Njoku, they're already hurt, which tight end's a very physical position. Like the people that are anti-tight end fantasy, that's one of the things they say is it's a position with a high injury rate because, you're not only involved as a pass catcher, you're in there as a blocker in most of the plays too. So you're just involved in every single play. So just in general, you're going to have a higher chance of getting injured. So we got 2 of the top guys out already. We've all seen how it's been after, following Kyle Pitts these last few years. It's been a great rookie season followed by a roller coaster up and down. And, hopefully this is the year he puts it all together. Looking this year, even in games where Buffalo's putting up 40 points, Dalton Kincaid really hasn't done a lot for your fantasy teams. Travis Kelce is off to a very slow start. And I think at this point, we just kind of need to plan for Kelce being playoff Kelce. Like, he's a guy that's going to be better in the last 2 months of the season. But I think as much as they can save him in the early going, the Chiefs are going to do that, because for them, they're playing for the real Super Bowl. They're not caring about our fantasy teams at this point, even more so than most teams. And then Sam Laporta, man, again, the Lions have been putting up points and he just has not really done much. So that kind of brings me to my thought. Like, one of the big pushbacks that I got from Joe, or Joe of the site here in the offseason, was I wanted to push Sam Laporta up in kind of the top 12 to 15 overall. And, my brain might be poisoned a little bit by tight end premium leagues. And, he rightly, it's looking like was pushing back on that. And I'm just like, I don't know, man. I think Laporta is the next guy that's really going to take a step forward and be, wide receiver numbers every single week. And I don't know, man. We see the small emergence of Jameson Williams, and it's already looking like Sam Laporta is slotted back into being the third option in that offense. So, I mean, are we at the point now where as soon as the tight end becomes elite or labeled elite in Dynasty, should we be looking to cash out on like a wide receiver, quarterback, running back? I think that it's getting close to that point. I think that at this point, there's two tight ends that I don't really look to sell, and that's Brock Bowers and Trey McBride. But outside of that, I think if I can get equivalent value for my tight ends at a wide receiver position, I think at this point it makes sense to kind of start looking at making that swap. Obviously, the exception if you're playing in like a 1.5 to 2 point per catch premium for tight ends, that changes a little bit. But in the past, like even in just like my half point tight end premium leagues, my strategy has always been like I want 4 to 5 tight ends on my bench, and it seemed like for 2 or 3 years there that paid off. We were kind of going through a golden era of tight ends. But these last 2 years, especially, like we've kind of seen that outside of that elite class, like it's not really as deep as we think it is. It's just more so there's a lot more tight ends that are capable of putting up like tight end 12 to 15 numbers than there used to be, but they're not guys that are really becoming difference makers outside of your top 5 or 6. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely a philosophy change on how I'm building teams that I'm kind of starting to reevaluate. Like before, I wanted 4 or 5 tight ends on every team. I didn't want to be weak there. But now it's almost looking like some of those teams might be at a bit of a disadvantage where I'm now having to try and go out and shop them and maybe sell for a little bit of negative value to get players at wide receiver and running back to backfield there. So yeah, I mean, I think even McBride or Bowers, like maybe if you have them, you go out and you test the market and just kind of see what you can get back. But yeah, it's interesting. It definitely feels like we've kind of gone through like a golden era of tight ends that has definitely faded back a little bit now. And yeah, now I'm not as sure as myself as I used to be on this one. But yeah, so that's everything I had for you today. Again, a little bit more of an informal show these first few weeks, probably. Like as long as I can keep sitting out here and enjoying the sunshine, that's what I'm going to do. So yeah, we'll be back in a few weeks, back inside the office with multiple screens and a lot more in-depth analysis and less, I guess, just opinion, which has been what a lot of these first 2 shows have been there. But yeah, I appreciate everybody tuning in here. Again, become a member over at fantasy6pack.net/plans. Hit like and subscribe here, and I will be back next Sunday morning as well as Monday here for some Dynasty Talk. See you guys.